Revelation 3481. From the 15th of May 1945. Subordinating the will to God. With knowledge, the human being is able to place himself completely under God's will and therefore also carry out everything he sets out to do. As soon as the human being knows about the meaning and purpose of earthly life, of the whole of creation and God's eternal plan of salvation, he no longer carries his own will within himself but has made God's will his own, otherwise full knowledge would not have been imparted to him. But then he is also powerful, and he can use the strength at any time if he needs it. Thus he will not need to despair in the most difficult situations of life because he can and does have the strength from God at his disposal as soon as he has strong faith. Therefore, if a person feels weak, he is only of weak faith and must first try to strengthen it. Increasing the strength of faith should be a person's constant endeavor, for in strong, unshakable faith he masters the most difficult circumstances in life and also matures spiritually. Living in strong faith means an easier earthly life because then the strength from God can work unhindered. The human being must be convinced that God's will expresses itself in him and that there is no limit to his will if the human being does not set these limits himself through weak faith. The human being must bear God's strength and power in mind, to whom no thing is impossible. He must completely subordinate his will to God's will and then open himself to his working with complete faith. Then the strength will flow to him unmeasured so that there will no longer be any lack of strength for him. He can do anything he wants, for he only wants what is good, and God truly knows where and when he sets limits. Belief in God's love must always fill the human being, which never fails itself if it is earnestly desired and sincerely requested. God's love is exceedingly great, and everything that has emerged from it remains eternally in his love. Since love is the elemental power which brought everything into being, a withdrawal of this love would also mean a forfeiture of what God has created. But what is of God, what has his strength as its origin, is everlasting, thus it will never be without God's strength of love. That the human being is not always able to feel this power is due to himself, to his state of maturity, which can be higher or lower depending on his self-love. Nevertheless, the human being remains in constant contact with divine love. The awareness of this is faith, which is all the deeper and more unshakable the more the human being himself establishes the connection with God and feels his power of love. The human being must try to gain this profound faith. He must regard himself as a product of God's love and recognize God as the most loving Father who only directs everything for the best of his children and is accessible to every heartfelt request in order to prove his love to the child through its fulfillment. Full trust in his immense love will also make the earthly child pray sincerely and confidently, and the fulfillment of its request is certain, for God will not let a profound faith be put to shame. God is love, who never refuses. To acknowledge this love and to fully submit to divine will allows the human being to be powerful and master over all difficulties in every situation in life. For then divine love itself will take effect in the human being, he cannot and will not carry out anything other than God's will, and he will never lack strength. If the human being is weak, he himself is to blame, for the strength from God is constantly at his disposal. He can request it, open himself to its influx and make unlimited use of it. He only has to believe that divine love will always provide him with this strength. The belief in this is absolutely necessary because it is an acknowledgement of God, who is exceedingly loving, wise and omnipotent, and because God has to be acknowledged before his strength can become effective. Amen.